There seems to be a magnetic pull between my kids and the couch, especially when there's a screen on. I'm so glad you joined me today because if you've ever heard a phrase like, I don't want to go outside, it's too cold, I'm bored, then you're a parent. You hear those kinds of phrases all the time, especially when you're trying to get your kids off the couch and get them to go outside and play. Research going all the way back to 2013 says that kids spend 4 to 7 minutes outside with unstructured play. No wonder we have an obesity and health problem in the US. Kids need to be outside, they need to be running around, they need to be playing, and they need to understand how to create play and fun for themselves. There's all of this pressure on parents to entertain your kids all the time. And this is really difficult, especially if you're homeschooling, to feel like you have to be your kids' entertainment all the time. You probably follow influencers or see people on social who are constantly doing these crazy outlandish things for their kids. I'm guilty of that too. I like doing crazy outlandish things for my kids. But there's a ton of time during the day where my kids can't be entertained by me or by my wife. My wife is awesome. She cooks most of our meals from scratch. She homeschools the kids. She keeps track of all the different things going on in our life. She does not have the time to entertain our kids 24 hours a day, and neither do I. And so if we have to be the entertainment for our kids to get them to go outside, they're just not going to do it. And so today I'm going to talk about some of the things that we have learned about how to get our kids outside to play. Now, there are some of the things that we have an advantage of. We have property, but we haven't always had property. We've owned this house for 2.5 years, but a lot of the challenges that we ran into when we didn't have property are the same when we come out here. The kids don't magically go outside when there's a screen on. When it's cold outside or there's really bad mosquitoes, the kids hate being outside out here just as much as they did when we lived in town. And so all of the excuses that you might have in your head about, oh, if I only had more property, if I only had this or I only had that, let's put those aside and we're going to talk about practical ways for you to get your kids off the couch. One thing that has really helped us is to make a goal. I know for some people this can become stressful, but for our family it was really helpful when we learned about the 1,000 hours outside challenge. And we took that challenge this last year and we hit it right at the very end of the year. I'm going to talk a little bit about something that we changed this year that's going to help us to hit it a lot faster. The 1,000 hours outside was created by Jenny Urick, and the idea was she's homeschool mom and same kind of challenges that you're running into and the same kind of challenges that my family runs into. You still got to get your kids out there. So creating this challenge helps us to get our kids outside, so they're spending way more than that 4 to 7 minutes average outside. They really need to be spending hours a day. So setting a goal, and if 1,000 hours is too much, then make it 750. Make it 500. You know, if your kids are in school and you're saying, man, there's just no way after school that we'd be able to do that, set a goal that's going to stretch you. I mean, shoot, if it's 250 hours outside and you're going to start there, start with whatever is going to stretch you a little bit. Make it a goal that's actually a little bit difficult, but make it something that you can attain if you really put your mind to it. Another thing is mindset. I probably spend 7.5 plus hours on a screen for my job. And so it can be really hard for me to be motivated to go outside myself, especially when I'm busy with work and I'm in front of a screen all day. The last thing I want to do at the end of the day or even on a weekend is get off the couch myself. I want to scroll Netflix, but I'm teaching my kids every time I'm scrolling on my phone, every time that they see me watching Netflix, I'm setting that example for them and they're going to pick that up. And so if I'm dragging my feet and I'm always feeling frustrated when it's time to go outside, they're going to think that that's normal to feel frustrated. But if I'm excited, they're going to be excited to go outside. And so making that shift and really focusing your family effort and your energy on making outside time a priority is key. One awesome thing about getting your kids outside is that you really don't need a lot of money. Now on this channel, I spend time making kind of wacky things, and there's things that I'm doing that you don't have to do. You don't have to do anything crazy. You don't have to do anything over the top. You don't have to spend a lot of money to get your kids outside. You can build things out of sticks. You could build things out of mud. And if you just have a couple things laying around and your kids are outside all the time, they're going to start flipping over buckets and making mud soup. They're going to come up with their own play, even if there's just a couple rocks. I spent a ton of time in Kenya around kids that have absolutely nothing, and those kids know how to play outside. They go out and they find old bike tires and spin them around with sticks. They find bottle caps and build things out of them. When kids are left alone and they have unsupervised play, they learn how to do these things on their own. So you don't have to spend money to be outside, with one caveat. There is one thing that's going to absolutely destroy your kids' motivation. It's going to make it very difficult for them to want to spend any time outside, and that is if you don't consider the weather. Take today, for instance. It's kind of chilly. It's 39 degrees, and it was raining earlier, and it's still drizzling a little bit. If you send your kids outside on a day like today, man, they are going to be inside so fast if you don't get them the proper gear. So if you're going to invest in something, invest in getting them a couple of different layers. Get them some really good waterproof boots. Get them a base layer, a mid layer, and a top layer that they can layer up and layer down based on the weather. They're going to run around. They might need to take that top layer off. And if you have a bottom layer, a mid layer, and a top layer, they're going to be able to adjust that and be outside. In fact, this is what made it really difficult for us to hit our 1,000 hours outside last year, was that we hardly spent any time outside in January and February, and even getting into March a little bit. And we would send them out, and 15 minutes later, they'd be back in. Their hands would be all red with whatever gloves we had. No matter what gear we were buying, it just wasn't really doing it for our kids. And that's why I'm really excited to partner with the sponsor of this video, Rama. Rama makes outdoor gear for kids that lets them be outside no matter what the weather's like. If it's raining, if it's snowing, if it's cold, if it's wet, if you get Rama gear, your kids are going to be out there and they're going to be warm. Their gear is waterproof. And I can attest that my kids have spent way more time outside in January and February this year, because they'll spend 4 hours plus outside on a cold, snowy day, playing around, running in the snow, having fun, sledding. Their fingers aren't getting cold, their toes aren't getting cold, they're out, they're having fun, and it's, if anything, it's been hard for us to get them to come inside once they're out and playing. And when we've tried to use other gear, we haven't found anything that keeps them as warm and happy when the weather is nasty. According to the CDC, most kids spend over 7 hours a day on screens. And this is kind of funny that I'm recording this video today, because a couple of my kids are sick while I'm filming. They're inside watching TV. And so as a family, we are working on reducing screen time. It's something that is important for us, for our kids to be spending less time on screens. But I'm not saying, hey, take your TV and throw it in the garbage can. Never let your kids be on screens. And especially if you homeschool and your kids are together all the time, and you have things that you need to get done, sometimes a screen can be a really handy companion. But at the same time, when your kids are sitting in front of a screen, they're not developing the core skills that are super important for them to be successful and thrive, both in their health, but also socially. Being able to develop your fine motor skills, being able to develop dexterity, and having physical activity is super important, but also it's good for your kids' eyesight to be looking around at different things. It's good for them socially to learn how to interact and how to come up with games and play together and have fun. And so these are all skills that they learn as they get outside and as they have movement. And so another thing that's really important is to intentionally reduce screen time. Now, I know that this next statement is going to be a little bit extreme for people, but we do not allow video games in our house at all. I know that there's some people and some kids, some personalities, where playing video games now and then isn't going to be the end of the world. But for me personally, and for several of my kids, playing video games is a complete demotivator. And the reason is, if you need a dopamine hit, if you have ADHD or ADD, or your kids do, or you need dopamine hits to survive, and it's an important part of you being able to function. When you create a false dopamine hit by achieving something in a video game where you actually didn't achieve anything at all, with doing no effort but sitting in front of a screen, that's going to really make it difficult for you to want to go outside and do things that are difficult. But if you eliminate video games altogether, or limit them to the extreme, and you limit the amount of time your kids are spending on screens, and force them to be bored, force them to have to come up with ideas on their own to entertain themselves, they're going to learn how to get dopamine from being active, from doing things outside, from getting a stick and swinging it around, from having sword fights, from wrestling on the ground. Whatever it is, that they're going to do to get that dopamine hit, they're only going to learn how to do that. They're only going to learn how to regulate their bodies, their emotions, their feelings if they're actually getting outside in the environment around siblings or other kids and learning how to get those dopamine hits from things that are healthy. Whereas when kids are on screens all the time and they're learning skills to build things and do things like that in a video game, it's demotivating them to do those things in real life. If your kid plays a ton of video games right now and you're saying, man, I would like to limit that, going cold turkey might be the right thing to do, but a lot of times it's better to do things in increments. Is there a way that you could set a little bit of a limit on how much time they're spending on a screen and have them spend that much more time outside? And I guarantee you what you're gonna hear when you shut off the TV or you shut off the video game and you send them outside is frustration and anger and resentment, and that's okay. You know what? Your kids are gonna be mad at you at different points in time. You're the adult. It's your job to stay regulated. It's your job to think long-term, what's actually gonna be beneficial for my child, and go through the hard work. My wife and I have done some trainings over time with TBRI. It's trust-based relational intervention, and it's specifically designed for kids that have experienced trauma or things that are challenging in their life, kids who have special needs in some way or another. But really, a lot of the things in TBRI are beneficial across the board. And one phrase they like to use in TBRI is pay now or pay later. And so if you cut off screens to a degree, you limit screen time, you limit video games to get your kids outside, they're going to be mad at you, and that's okay. You can pay now by getting them off the couch, getting them outside, having them move their bodies, having them learn how to have physical activity, interact with other kids, and maybe they'll be frustrated at you now, but they're going to learn these really important skills. Whereas if you wait until they're a teenager and then you try to get them outside, you're really going to pay at that point. And if you don't do that at all, your kids are really going to pay down the road when they're struggling to have the motivation to go get a job, when they're struggling to get off the couch and they're going into adulthood. That's going to be a lot more painful for your kid than you switching off the TV now. Maybe they're going to get mad, maybe they're going to get angry, and that's okay. Let them be angry, but get them outside, and I promise you, if they spend enough time outside, they're going to learn how to entertain themselves and how to make fun for themselves. For most of this video, I focused on your kids being outside, unsupervised, playing, being bored, and finding out things to do on their own. The majority of our kids' time outside is unsupervised, where they're out doing fun things. They're messing around, they're making camps, they're building with sticks and riding bikes, or doing things that are fun, that are enjoyable for them, where we're not being a helicopter parent. But if you're going to go out and you're going to do something with your kids, you're going to be outside with them, make it fun. There's a lot of ways to make it fun with your kids, and it doesn't have to be anything complicated. Do a treasure hunt. Get a random cardboard box or some box you have laying around. Go find some little gold coins or fake jewelry that you have laying around your house. Put it in there and go bury it somewhere in your backyard. And then make a little treasure map and have them go search for it and do some little adventures along the way. Literally 20 minutes worth of planning on your end can lead to an hour or more of fun with your kids and something they're going to remember forever. One of my favorite projects from this last year was making gnome houses and making this little hobbit hole literally out of just mud, sticks, dirt, and other things that we found around our yard. It's not something that you have to be super creative for, and the cost was absolutely free. We just went and got mud from around the yard, made it into different houses, and all the kids got involved. We got leaves and we built these really cute and fun gnome houses. The kids loved it. It was one of their favorite things we did outside this year. It was my favorite thing I did outside with them this year, and it was absolutely free. And so don't feel the pressure to have to entertain your kids all the time, but pick a few weekends a year where you're going to do something that's really memorable and free or don't cost that much money. It's fine to do things that cost money. It's fine to make these grand experiences, but if you want your kids to be outside, there also has to be some really memorable, fun experiences for them that didn't cost anything and that were in their normal, everyday environment. This one's a bonus tip, and I'll probably make a video on this in the future, but one thing that we've done that's really helped me to spend way more time outside with the kids is taking a weekly day of rest. Friday night, my wife and I really try to turn off our phones and be off of our phones as much as possible from Friday night to Saturday night, try to do as little work as possible, and ultimately, we're really trying not to do any work from Friday night to Saturday night. That gives us much more time to be intentional with our kids, to really prioritize that time outside with them. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'd love to learn about some of the things that you've done to get your kids outside, or some of the questions you have, some of the challenges you're running into. I'd love to talk about those with you in the comments and make future videos based on your feedback. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.